First contact. The observation vessel Serene Voyager hung at the edge of the Sol system, its adaptive camouflage rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. High Commander Zarin stood on the bridge, their four compound eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the third planet from the system's yellow star. "How long have they been watching them?" asked Zarin, mandibles clicking softly. Science Officer Neelix adjusted her sensory appendages before responding. 17 orbital cycles, High Commander. The species calls themselves humans. They've only achieved rudimentary space travel, but their technological advancement rate is concerning. Zarin nodded, their crystalline exoskeleton catching the ambient light. The Galactic Coalition had existed for over 12,000 years, uniting 37 spacefaring species in peaceful cooperation. Their protocol for discovering new intelligent life was well established. Observe, understand, and only then initiate contact when a species demonstrated both technological readiness and social stability. The humans, however, were proving difficult to categorize. "Show me their orbital constructs again," Zarin commanded. The holographic display shifted to reveal Earth's orbital space, filled with satellites, space stations, and several larger vessels that Coalition analysis had identified as military craft. Unlike the elegant, organic designs favored by Coalition engineers, human constructs were angular, pragmatic, and clearly designed with defensive capabilities in mind. "That one," Zarin pointed to the largest vessel. "Identification. The humans designated Artemis," replied Neelix. "It appears to be their most advanced military vessel, though they classify it as a peacekeeping platform." Zarin's secondary eyes narrowed. Peacekeeping requires weapons. For humans, apparently so. Their history is marked by continuous internal conflict. They've fought wars over territory, resources, belief systems, even minor cultural differences. And yet they haven't destroyed themselves, Zarin mused. Interesting. The Coalition's Grand Council had been debating the human question for years. Some argued for immediate contact, better to engage this potentially volatile species early and guide their development. Others advocated for quarantine, allowing humans more time to evolve socially before risking exposure to the wider galaxy. The debate had taken on new urgency when Coalition long-range sensors detected rapid advancements in human propulsion technology. Their primitive chemical rockets were being supplemented by experimental drives that, if successful, would soon give them the ability to venture beyond their solar system. "They're testing something," interrupted Tactical Officer Varric, his scaled skin flushing violet with excitement. "The Artemis is deploying what appears to be a weapons test." The display zoomed in on the human vessel. A smaller, unmanned craft had detached and moved to a safe distance. Without warning, the Artemis fired an energy beam of startling intensity. The target disintegrated instantly. Silence fell across the bridge of the Serene Voyager. "Analysis," Zarin finally managed, their voice unnaturally steady. Neelix's appendages trembled as she reviewed the data. "The weapon system appears to be a directed energy platform of unprecedented efficiency. The yield is," she hesitated, "comparable to our cruiser-class defensive systems." "Impossible," whispered Varric. "Their technological development shouldn't allow for such advancements for at least another century." Zarin stared at the display. The humans had developed weapons on par with species that had been spacefaring for millennia. And yet, they remained confined to their single planet and its immediate orbital space, seemingly unaware of the greater galactic community. "Prepare a full report for the Grand Council," Zarin ordered. "Include all sensor data from the weapons test. I believe this will end the debate on whether to initiate contact." 3 days later, the Grand Council's decision arrived. Contact would proceed immediately, led by Ambassador Thelara, the Coalition's most experienced diplomat. The diplomatic vessel Harmonious Exchange was dispatched to Earth orbit with orders to transmit peaceful greeting messages on all frequencies. What followed surprised even the most optimistic Coalition members. The humans responded not with fear or aggression, but with cautious enthusiasm. Within 6 Earth rotations, a delegation from their United Earth government had arranged to meet with Ambassador Thylara aboard the Harmonious Exchange. As Zarin observed the proceedings from a secure channel, they noted the remarkable adaptability of the human representatives. Despite the shocking revelation that they were not alone in the universe, the humans maintained remarkable composure, asking thoughtful questions about coalition history, member species, and governance structures. "Your civilization spans half the galaxy?" asked Dr. Elena Reyes, the lead human scientist, her dark eyes wide with wonder rather than fear. "Indeed," replied Thylara, her translucent body glowing softly. "Though it took us 12,000 years to achieve such expansion, and it was done through cooperation, not conquest." Captain Marcus Chen, the military representative, leaned forward. "And in all that time, you've never encountered hostile species?" Ambassador Thylara hesitated. "There have been misunderstandings. Cultural differences can lead to conflict when communication fails. But true aggression is rare among spacefaring civilizations. Evolution tends to favor cooperation once a certain technological threshold is reached." Chen exchanged glances with General Okoro, the other military representative. Something unspoken passed between them, but they simply nodded politely. The diplomatic exchange continued for 3 Earth days, each session building greater understanding between the species. The humans shared their history with surprising candor, acknowledging their violent past, while emphasizing their recent centuries of growing unity and peace. On the 4th day, as Ambassador Thylara was preparing to discuss potential Earth membership in the coalition, alarms sounded throughout the Harmonious Exchange. "Multiple unidentified vessels have entered the system," reported a coalition officer, their bioluminescent patterns flashing with distress. "They're not responding to hails and are approaching rapidly." The main display showed 6 vessels of unfamiliar design, predatory shapes with forward-mounted weapon arrays. They moved with purpose, heading directly toward Earth and the Harmonious Exchange. "Razic warships," Ambassador Thylara whispered, her luminescence dimming with fear. "You know them?" asked General Okoro, instantly alert. "An aggressive species from the galactic rim," Thylara explained quickly. "They've raided isolated worlds before, but never ventured this far into coalition space. We've tried diplomatic solutions, but they—" Her explanation was cut short as the ship rocked violently. "Direct hit to our propulsion system," reported a coalition officer. "Shields at 40%. Captain Chen activated his communication device. "Chen to Earth Command. We have a first contact situation gone hostile. Request immediate deployment of the Artemis." "Yes, full combat authorization." General Okoro turned to Ambassador Thylara. "I recommend we move this diplomatic party to a more secure location within your vessel. It seems our peaceful first contact is about to become somewhat more complicated." As coalition security personnel escorted the group toward the ship's protected central chambers, Ambassador Thylara found herself reevaluating everything she thought she knew about humans. Their military representatives hadn't panicked or demanded evacuation. Instead, they had immediately focused on protection and response. Perhaps, Thylara thought, the Grand Council had misunderstood the nature of human aggression entirely. Perhaps what coalition observers had interpreted as a violent predisposition was actually something else, a deeply ingrained instinct to protect. She was about to share this insight when another, more powerful impact rocked the Harmonious Exchange, plunging sections of the diplomatic vessel into darkness. The human response. Red emergency lighting bathed the command center of the Harmonious Exchange as coalition officers worked frantically to restore shields. The diplomatic vessel trembled under another barrage from the Razic ships, its hull groaning in protest. "Our defensive capabilities are primarily designed to deflect asteroids and space debris," explained Ambassador Thylara to the human delegation. "The Harmonious Exchange is not a warship." General Okoro nodded grimly. "Neither are the civilian stations in Earth orbit. If these Razic are as aggressive as you say, our people are in danger." "Help is coming," Captain Chen assured them, checking his communication device. The Artemis has broken orbit and will intercept in approximately 7 minutes. Tactical Officer Lethira, monitoring the Razik ships, looked up in alarm. 2 vessels have broken formation and are heading toward your planet's orbital habitats. They're powering weapons. The humans exchanged glances, but showed no fear, only cold determination. "Can we get visual on the Artemis?" asked Shen. A coalition officer adjusted the view screen, revealing Earth's orbital space. The massive human battleship had indeed departed its station and was accelerating rapidly toward the conflict zone, its angular form a stark contrast to the organic curves of both coalition and Razik vessels. Even in this moment of crisis, Thelyra couldn't help but marvel at the design. Unlike the diplomatic platitudes the humans had offered about the Artemis being a peacekeeping platform, the vessel's true nature was now abundantly clear. Every line of its construction spoke of carefully considered combat capability, from reinforced hull plating to multiple point defense systems and what appeared to be numerous concealed weapon emplacements. This was a ship built for war, by a species that understood conflict intimately. "They're targeting the research station," reported Lethira, her voice tight. 3,000 civilian scientists and support personnel. The view screen showed 2 Razik vessels approaching the large wheel-shaped station. Energy weapons powered up, glowing ominously. "They won't reach it in time," whispered a coalition officer, watching the Artemis racing across space, still too distant to intervene. Captain Chen's expression didn't change. "They don't need to." On the screen, the seemingly smooth hull of the Artemis suddenly transformed. Panels slid aside to reveal missile tubes, which immediately launched a salvo of projectiles. The sleek weapons accelerated at an impossible rate, crossing the vast distance in seconds. The missiles struck the Razik vessels with surgical precision, not destroying them, but targeting propulsion and weapon systems. Both raiders tumbled off course, their main drives disabled. "Kinetic penetrators with targeted EMP payloads," explained General Okoro, noting the stunned expressions of the coalition officers, "designed to disable rather than destroy." The remaining 4 Razik ships altered course, converging on the approaching human vessel, clearly recognizing it as the greater threat. "The Artemis is outnumbered," Thelyra observed, concern evident in her voice. For the first time since the attack began, Captain Chen smiled. "Numbers aren't everything, Ambassador." What followed would be studied in coalition military academies for generations. The human battleship engaged all 4 Razik vessels simultaneously, employing a dizzying array of weapons and defensive systems. Directed energy beams sliced through the lead Razik ship's weapons array. Point defense turrets intercepted incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. The Artemis moved with surprising agility for its size, executing maneuvers that strained coalition understanding of physics. Most shocking of all was the restrained nature of the human response. The Artemis systematically disabled the Razik vessels without destroying them, targeting engines, weapons, and communication systems with surgical precision. "They could obliterate those ships," murmured Tactical Officer Lethira, analyzing the weapon yields. "Why are they holding back?" "Because we understand the value of prisoners," General Okoro replied. "Dead raiders tell no tales. Live ones can provide intelligence on base locations, fleet strength, and future targets." Within 23 minutes of engaging, the Artemis had neutralized all 6 Razik vessels. None were destroyed, but all were rendered completely inoperable, drifting helplessly in space. "Artemis to diplomatic party," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Admiral Helena Kowalski. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We're dispatching rescue shuttles to your position and will begin boarding operations on the hostile vessels." Ambassador Thelyra approached the human delegation, her luminescence pulsing with complex emotions. "You saved us, and countless innocent lives on your orbital stations." Captain Chen nodded. "That's what the Artemis was built for, Ambassador. Not conquest, but protection." "I believe," General Okoro added quietly, This demonstrates something your coalition may have misunderstood about humanity. Our capacity for violence exists alongside, and because of, our capacity for compassion. We build warships precisely because we understand the value of peace. As coalition engineers work to restore the harmonious exchanges systems, Thylura observed the Artemis through the viewport. The human battleship hovered protectively near the damaged diplomatic vessel, shuttles deploying to assist with repairs. In the distance, more human vessels had arrived to secure the disabled Razik ships. "Your species is full of contradictions," she finally said. "Your history shows such capacity for internal conflict, yet your first instinct was to protect not just yourselves, but us as well. Aliens you've only just met." "That's humanity in a nutshell," Chen replied with a slight smile. "Contradictory, complicated, and occasionally surprising even to ourselves." 2 days later, representatives from Earth and the Coalition gathered aboard the Artemis for a new round of diplomatic discussions. The massive ship's conference room had been reconfigured for the occasion, with transparent viewports offering spectacular views of Earth below. High Commander Zarin, who had joined the diplomatic mission following the attack, addressed the assembled delegates. "The Grand Council has reviewed the events of recent days with great interest. It seems our initial assessment of humanity was incomplete." Admiral Kowalski, commander of the Artemis, nodded. "As was our understanding of the wider galaxy. We thought we had time to develop our interstellar capabilities at our own pace. Now we realize the universe is more complex and potentially dangerous than we anticipated. Which brings us to our proposal," continued Zarin. "The Coalition offers humanity accelerated membership, with particular emphasis on cultural and technological exchange." "And in return?" asked General Okoro. Ambassador Thylura stepped forward. "In return, we would welcome human expertise in defensive systems and strategic planning. The Razik incursion has exposed vulnerabilities in our security protocols. For millennia, the Coalition has emphasized diplomatic solutions, sometimes at the expense of practical defensive capabilities." "You want our warships," Admiral Kowalski stated bluntly. "We want your perspective," corrected Thylura. "The Coalition has maintained peace for thousands of years through dialogue and cooperation. But as the Razik demonstrated, not all species respond to such approaches." Zarin's compound eyes reflected the blue glow of Earth below. "Perhaps humanity's greatest contribution to galactic society will not be your technology or resources, but your unique evolutionary perspective. A species that developed both remarkable capacity for violence and equally remarkable restraint in its application." The human representatives exchanged glances before Admiral Kowalski responded. "We accept your offer with one condition. The protection we extend to Earth and its colonies must extend to all Coalition worlds, particularly those most vulnerable to raiders like the Razik." "A defensive alliance," Zarin summarized. "Exactly," nodded General Okoro. "Humanity joins the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians." As the diplomatic formalities concluded, Tactical Officer Lethira approached Captain Chen at the viewport. "The Razik prisoners have begun providing intelligence," she reported. "It appears they've been systematically testing Coalition defenses for weaknesses. This attack was one of many planned incursions." Chen gazed out at the stars. "Then it seems we've entered the galactic stage at precisely the right moment." "Or perhaps," suggested Lethira, "the Coalition found you at precisely the right moment." Beyond the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly, filled with possibilities both wondrous and terrible. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, bringing with them their contradictions, their determination, and the fearsome sight of their battleships. Vessels built not for conquest, but for the protection of all they held dear. When aliens saw a human battleship, they indeed knew fear, not for themselves, but for any who would threaten the peace humanity had fought so hard to achieve.